The U.S. is calling on Russia to immediately stop its filtration operations. This is the massive forced deportation of Ukrainians to Russia from Russian-held areas of Ukraine, including 260,000 children. Secretary of State Tony Blinken today calling it a grave breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention and a war crime. According to the State Department, estimates indicate Russian authorities have interrogated, detained, and forcibly deported a total of up to 1.6 million Ukrainians. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, I want to talk to you about Saudi Arabia and the Israeli trip today, but let me first ask you about this. You're such an expert on Ukraine. This Russian filtration policy is just outrageous. We have no way of finding these people or helping them get back to their homeland.
And the numbers are stunning, right? You're talking about upwards of 1.5 million Ukrainians, hundreds of thousands of children who have been uprooted from their homes, from their families, from their schools, from their neighborhoods, and have been driven away to far-off places, never to be seen or heard from again, likely uprooted from their family members and from their communities. This is reminiscent of the tactics of Joseph Stalin. It is undoubtedly a war crime. It is more evidence of how unhinged Vladimir Putin has become. And more evidence of why we have to stay in this fight to make sure that Ukraine wins, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. 1 million today. By the end of this year, we could be talking about 3-4 million Ukrainians who have been uprooted and taken away from their homes. That's unconscionable.
And I know you're really outraged by the video. We just played it earlier with our correspondent in Texas. So for 77 minutes, these heavily armed law enforcement officers, looked at their watch. They, went and cleaned their hands with hand purifier and did not try to breach that classroom while children were calling 911.
The video is jaw-dropping. I don't necessarily recommend that people watch it. It's hard to watch, but it is proof that this myth perpetuated on the country for 30 years, that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is good guys with a gun, was a gun industry fiction created to sell more weapons. There was one teenager with military-style assault weapons. There were multiple trained law enforcement officers outside, not just with high-powered weapons, but with body armor and shields. If one teenager with a high-powered weapon is so scary as to prevent all of those highly trained adults from going in and saving lives, maybe we should try to stop those teenagers from having those kind of guns in the first place, because clearly we can never have enough good guys with guns. We can never have enough high-powered weapons in the hand of law enforcement to stop an assailant if we couldn't get that job done, given what we've seen on the tapes in Uvalde.
I know you've been meeting with parents from Uvalde and, Highland Park this week. What can you tell them about any possibility for an assault weapon ban? Because we've been told repeatedly from Senator Cornyn and the others whom you've negotiated with that it's not going to happen in this Congress.
We obviously are just weeks away from passing the most substantial change in our nation's gun laws in the last 30 years. That bill, when it's implemented, is going to save thousands of lives. And I would argue to you that had it been in place, it could have stopped both the Uvalde shooting and the Highland Park shooting. There are elements of that bill that frankly address the fact patterns in both those cases. But we need to do more. And I'm just in awe of these Uvalde families, these Highland Park survivors that are here right now as we speak, walking around the Capitol and demanding that Congress do the right thing and join the rest of the industrialized world, ban these high-capacity magazines and these assault weapons. I don't know that this is something Congress is going to be able to take up in the next several weeks, but we are now we've now sort of crossed the Rubicon. It's not a question of when we are ever going to pass anti-gun violence legislation. It's what are we going to do next? And so I'm hopeful that these parents joining this movement, in fact, I'm confident that these parents joining this movement are going to allow us to do a lot more to save kids' lives.
And just a few moments ago on this program, the former CIA director, John Brennan, said, just as the deputy national security advisor under President Obama, Ben Rhodes, said that he would not, in office, Brennan said he would not have taken this trip. He's a former station chief in Saudi Arabia. He would have not gone to meet with Mohammed bin Salman because of the human rights abuses, the people who are still being held, and obviously the murder of Khashoggi. I know you feel that the strategic, challenges are such that the president should make this trip. But how does he handle the difficult human rights issue?
Well, I think the president needs to get some real meaningful commitments from the Saudis, not just on reform of their human rights record, but also the way in which this Saudi regime has conducted itself in the region. I know the administration is talking about renewing the ceasefire in Yemen, but we've got to do better. We've got to get Saudi Arabia committed to a political path in Yemen whereby we can permanently bring this war to an end, and the Yemeni people can be back in charge of running that country. And my worry is that the Saudis get a lot of credit for this sort of very short-term ceasefire, but they aren't taking the hard steps necessary to put in place a long-term political reconciliation inside Yemen. So my belief is that the president has every right to go to Saudi Arabia. It's an important country, an important security partner, but I'm hopeful that he's going to come out of these meetings with some significant commitments on human rights reform and significant commitments on how we bring the Yemen war to a complete hard stop.
Senator Chris Murphy, as always, thank you on all these complicated subjects.